Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope y'all are doing well. Welcome back to another video. It has been about 3 years since I've done a book review. So I have two goodies for y'all, kind of a follow-up to my other video about Christ and the Apostles being Black. I have one this time about Native Americans or Indigenous Americans also being denoted to be from the tribes of Israel. So that's something I wanted to bring forth today. I have two books today. The first one is Discourse on the Evidences of the American Indians being the Descendants of the Lost Tribes of Israel, delivered before the Mercantile Library Association in Clinton Hall by M.M. Noah. This book is a reprint. You can get it from forgottenbooks.com or Amazon or even 8books. I'll probably put a couple of links down here in the description just to show you where you could get this and like where I got it if they still have it at the available links. The next book that I have here is America, being the latest and most accurate description of the New World, containing the original of the inhabitants and the remarkable voyage thither, the conquest of the vast empires of Mexico and Peru and other large provinces and territories. So this book was recorded by Arnoldus Montanus, but it was originally, I believe, written by John Ogilvy in the 1600s. He was a Scottish explorer, and he recorded a lot of original history. Sorry about that. He recorded a lot of original history about the Native Americans, and that's something that I will go through today. So I just wanted to show you all a couple of pictures that I wanted to bring forth in a couple of pages. Let me first show you some interesting pictures. Let me see. I believe it's on page 92. So this is also a reprint. This is from India. That's where it was printed and that's where it was formulated together. So you're gonna have to ignore some of the small writing. I'll include screenshots of an online version whenever I go over a passage. But I just thought it was timely for me to go ahead and show you all. So I just wanted to show you all what the original Native Americans that were recorded look like. You can see they're darker skinned with like woolly hair textures. And you can see the kind of clothing that they're wearing. Again, I'll make the argument, and you'll see later on that they knew what they were doing in terms of shading. It's not like, oh, they couldn't shade them brown. Of course, this is in black and white, but they could denote between lighter shades and darker shades, even though this was probably pencil drawn or something, or like drawn with coal or something. So this is showing Native Americans here, early Americans. Let me see if I can go back and see where exactly they're from. This is like some very small text here. I recommend getting this book. This book is very rare. You thought the last one was rare. This one is also rare. I'm trying to see what island they're from. If not, I'll just go ahead and put like a picture with the information. It's talking about the history of some Spanish officers that arrived in were interacting with the natives. So the next page that I have for you all is on page 119. I'm trying not to make this video too drawn out. This is what I meant by shading. So clearly you see the Spaniards there with the Native Americans. In this image, the natives have very long hair and it's kind of like braided or plaited, but also they're wearing different types of headdresses as well. So you can see that here. I'm really just kind of setting up the stage for you all to see what their hue was, what their color was, what they looked like. And I think I also might have a description that Columbus gave of them, so that will come later. Okay, so this is just interesting to point out that this next section talks about Florida. So we're going to go over that actually. So if you look here, these are the original inhabitants of Florida. You can see what they look like. And I'm not trying to start like an argument by saying that, you know, some people get into the whole debate of $5 Indians. They call them quote unquote, which I mean, that was true. Some individuals' ancestors did pay $5 to be enlisted on the Dawes rolls. But also I need to find the historical source for this, but I saw and read in a book where it said that there were 3 different types of indigenous people or early people in the Americas. It was the Hamitic type, the Shemitic or Semitic type, and the Mongoloid type. So that's something we need to keep in mind too. Like, there's not just one type of Native American or Indigenous American. Even pre-Columbus, there wasn't just one type of individual here. So yes, this gives more information about Florida. It talks about the Queen here, the King, and the Spaniards here. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not really going to go over the text as much. I'm just looking at the pictures for edification purposes. So let me go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm sorry. These are just some photos, more information about early America. They had some interesting pictures, by the way, for some of their animals that they encountered. That one definitely looks humanoid in terms of their face, but I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. But see, you can see on this page they have like history of Guatemala and things like that, like early history. So I definitely recommend getting this book. There's another YouTuber that went over information that, in this book, and he does a very in-depth close study of it, and I will link his channel down. His name is Benea Israel, so he does a fantastic job, and that was part of my inspiration for doing this. But he was just using online pictures, but being that I actually have the book, this is something that I wanted to go over too. So here you can also see another picture of what natives looked like. Some of them wore headdresses, some of them did not. It talks about the cacao trees. Once again, I will put the pages, like a snapshot, so that you can see better of the digital version of that page blown up. So it might take me a while to edit this video. This is a rough recording. I'm not too tech savvy, but just wanted to show you this book off of the cuff. So yes, and to let you know that you can get a copy of this. It might take a while because of it needing to be printed on demand. Here's another picture here of natives. It looks like someone's in the middle here. I'm not sure what exactly is going on, but you can see the type of hair again that is short. This time it's kind of woolly, like, actually this might be a sacrifice or something that it's depicting based on just the text, saying the priest challenging the slave which was to be offered to fight for his life. That's a bit much. But I just wanted to show you all that. Let's see, because I actually had another thing that I wanted to show you all. This one. So this one is kind of akin to Columbus's depiction of the natives that he came into contact with, how he was saying how well built they were. Their legs were very firm. They were had good bodies, in terms of being stocky and in terms of actually being well built and sturdy. You can even see here where it's saying like what they're wearing, and it's giving details about their ankles. just to remind you all that this text is written in an old font in some ways, so you might see F's or S's that look like F's. For example, right here where it says especially, like that's an S, not an F, by the way. So just be mindful of that if you do order this book. It might take some time to get used to. So before I get into the part about the Native Americans, the other book about the Native Americans being descendants of the lost tribes, I wanted to show you all something very interesting. And it's the fact that the natives also encountered giants when they were on the land. Well, you know, the original natives. And this is something that the Scottish author wrote about. So here on page 18 of this book, and once again, I'm sorry about this bad kind of reprint of this. I'm trying to find the part, I believe, where it mentioned, oh, sorry, page 14, I'm on the wrong page. I kind of did some pre-homework and just kind of highlighted it. But, yeah, it so mentions here about, moreover, the Peruvians themselves give some small testimony in their ancient records of a few that landed of old upon their coasts, which were, as they say, mighty and cruel giants, committing much bloodshed, slaughtering the natives everywhere, and having subdued the whole country, built stately edifices, like they built really tall buildings, of which remain yet the ruins of some foundations, very artificial and costly. They also show near Manta and Puerto Viejo many huge bones, as there they believe of giants, 3 times longer and thicker than an ordinary man's. That's pretty huge. If you give an average man roughly, like, let's say 6 feet, I mean, I know that's not the average, but just for the sake of rounding, I mean, 3 times longer, that's 18 feet. If that's not a giant, I don't know what is. Says they also tell us that many ages since, one Ika and I think that says Arca or either Arica, it's hard for me to read it, I'm sorry, sailed westward there upon sea wolf skins blown up like bladders. But however, without contradiction, the Americans never knew, much less built, any such vessels with which they durst venture to the often out of the light of land, and then etc. It goes on. But anyways, you can see that they're huge giants, and that's the first evidence of it in this book. I'll go ahead and show you some more evidence. I think there's actually a picture or two in this book of a couple of giants. This is one. So this is one that actually looks like the natives. You can see here the natives are very tiny and kneeling to this huge giant who they more than likely worshipped as a deity. And you can see the skulls in the background, so I'm sure some kind of sacrifice was demanded for payment. But see, I mean, you could see the size difference right there, 6 feet versus 18 feet roughly. Let me see if I can tell where exactly this was. I'm just gonna flip back really quickly. Oh, New Galicia. And by some called Guadalajara. So it looks like that might be Mexico, where they found this particular giant. And once again, pay attention to the natives, how they look at the skin tone, look at everything. They pretty much kind of question everything. So let me show you another one that was kind of interesting, but even more jarring, I guess I could say. This one, okay. So this one, you could see, let's look at the picture first. These are cannibalistic giants right here. These are like white, pale-skinned, like huge giants that's eating people and sacrificing their flesh raw. They have bows and arrows in the background, hunting the regular natives here. Like, they're cannibals. So I'll just read the text that goes with it. It says, in the Isles, Los Isleos, next to Puerto Seguro. I'm not really sure where exactly this is, but somewhere within North, Central, or South America. That's what this book is about. It says, round about this river live the Guaymoras, the most savage people of all the Americas. They are of a gigantic size, have white skins, carry exceeding great bows and arrows, live without houses like beasts, devour man flesh like tigers, never fight in companies or armies, but watch to surprise a single man or beast. They also eat their own children, and possessed formerly all the land from the river St. Francisco to the Promontory Frio, but beaten from thence by the Tupinambas, which are still in existence today, but they were a Native American or indigenous tribe, but beaten from thence by the Tupinambas and Tupinachtas. Forgive me for my pronunciation of this. They went to the county Los Isleos, which they invaded in such a manner that the Portuguese were not only forced to leave several sugar mills, but also the whole country. The Portuguese were so afraid of them that they just abandoned, their whole settlement that they had, because those Guaymoras, those man-eating, those flesh-eating giants were inhabiting that place and got ended up being driven there due to war from the Tupinambas and the other tribe. So that's something I wanted to show y'all. And now I wanted to show y'all a description of Native Americans being the original Jews, or from the tribes of Israel. I mean, not the original Jews, but from the tribes. Here, so just think about it for a second. If this book was written originally in the 1600s or maybe even 1500s, for them to be mentioning this, they knew that on site, contact, what Columbus was, 1492? They already knew who they found over here. So it just says here, somewhat derived the Americans, once again referring to the indigenous people here, somewhat derived the Americans from the Jews, others from the 10 tribes of Israel carried into captivity, the ground of which opinion is that the Jews and Israelites were scattered amongst all nations. Therefore they conclude that America was also peopled by them, the rather because the ancient Jews and Americans were of one complexion. So that kind of gives heat to my point in my other video, that they were of the same skin tone. The original Jews were dark, swarthy, black, however you want to put it, brown, copper colored, and went alike habited, both going without shoes, only wearing sandals and an upper coat over a shorter linen vest. Both are humble, quick of apprehension, and obliging, yet valiant. But it is certain, this one he tries to kind of backpedal a bit, which doesn't make any sense. But it is certain they cannot be like the Jews, because the Americans changed their habit, according as they live in cold or hot countries, and go not in the least like one another. I mean, pretty much they changed their clothing. They used to refer to clothing as habit. I mean, if I'm now living in a new land and it's wintertime, I'm going to change my clothes. So I don't really see that as an argument debunking why they wouldn't be the Jews. Like, he gave all of this evidence here and then just denies it by talking about what they wear. It makes no sense. Okay, so skipping down a little bit, it says, lastly, what ceremonies of religious rites are observed by the Americans, which are used in Judaism? The Jews indeed have transplanted their circumcision amongst diverse Eastern people, and have they only forgot the first ceremony and signal badge of their religion in America? which yet not only they, but those Mahometans, that's an archaic term for Muslims, but those Mahometans and other sectaries punctually observe. This makes evident their scatterings about the face of the earth, but will not bring them to reach America. Once again, that makes no sense at all. I mean, over time, people lose certain customs, but you'll see in this next book over here that there are a lot more similarities arguing. But it's like, I think they're writing to someone. Sorry, I lost my page. Let me find it again. Like they're writing to someone or trying to prove who the Israelites are or who the natives or indigenous people were over here. And so they're like coming to the answer, but then they don't want to believe the answer. So it doesn't make any sense what they're doing. And then kind of flipping over to this page, I forgot about this one. It talks about the natives again, and it says, a small seeming testimony is added, being taken out of the 4th book of Esdras. You need to know that Esdras was an archaic way of saying Ezra. There were 4 books that were, well, not even books, they were scrolls. The Old Testament was written in scrolls. There were 4 that were compiled, but during different councils, like the Council of Nicaea and other councils, it was decided which books would be taken out and not included in the Bible, and many parts of Esdras were not. I do have an old 1611 Bible that I recommend that you all purchase as well, that has the apocryphal books in it. So this is what this is referencing. A small seeming testimony is added, being taken out of the 4th book of Esdras, Ezra, that the 10 tribes of Israel that were carried away by Salmanasar with their king Hosea to Nahala Habor, the river Gozan, and the cities of the Medes might be acknowledged for the first planters of America, concerning which Esdras said thus, the 10 tribes brought over into another country consulted that they should forsake the multitude of the heathens. I'm so sorry about the barking in the background. My dogs are going a little crazy, but I'm just going to continue and try to mute it later on. If not, I'll do a voiceover. Esdras said thus, the 10 tribes brought over into another country consulted that they should forsake the multitude of the heathens and travel to a remoter country where no generation of mankind had ever lived before. There they would maintain their laws, which they had not observed in their country, whereupon they went thither through the narrow entrances of the river Euphrates, for the Almighty stopped the veins of the river till they were passed over. For through the country was a way of 1.5 years' journey. They traveled for 1.5 years, wherefore that tract of land is called Arzareth, or Asareth here. Then they lived there till the last time. And by last time, they're referring to the present at the time of this writing, so the 1600s or 1500s. So they knew who they were dealing with. And it speaks now about the Jews and more information here that I won't necessarily get into. But I definitely recommend reading this book. Now I'm going to, I think there was another page that I had pulled up. Let's see. One more page. Ooh, I skipped forward too much. Let's see. This is more information. It talks about those of Tartary. And it talks about here, the Hebrew tongue, remnants of, or remainders, is seemingly because these Tartarians were remainders of the aforementioned tribes. Nay, the northern Tartary herdsmen preserve to this day the names Dan, Zebulun, and Naphtali. Wherefore we need not admire why so many Jews are found. Well, this one says in Russia, Sarmatia and Leafland. Nay, the nearer to Tartary, the more Jews there are. So this is just some extra information that you all can read. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into this book. I thought I had some pages written down, but I know that I just kind of saved them. Once again, this is a reprint. But this entire book talks about the indigenous being Jews or from the lost tribes. So this is a discourse, aka like a conversation or argument that's held in a public setting. And once again, it's before the Clinton Hall. So I guess there were a group of people and the author was making an argument. So it's saying the question before us for consideration is what has become of the missing or dispersed tribes? To what quarter of the world did they direct their footsteps? And what are the evidences of their existence today? And so it just talks about their travels all over. And once again, it mentions the book of Esdras, aka Ezra, and the beliefs that Ezra held here, what he stated. And an interesting part is that it mentions Alvarez states in his history of China that the Jews had been living in that kingdom for more than 600 years. It's just interesting to see Jews in places you wouldn't imagine, which that reminds me, I do have another book that I might go over called Jews in Places You Never Imagined or something similar. So I'll definitely go over that. But this book is just arguing, and it's speaking about, you know, possessions of Central America, Mexico, and Peru. Once again, it mentions China and Tartary. And it mentions the Jews reaching like Cape Horn, Labrador, Hudson's Bay, and Greenland. And more information about that. And it says, kings, conquerors, nations, Christians, Mohammedans, once again Muslims, and heathens all had united in the design of destroying the nation, but they never despaired, aka the Jews or Israelites never despaired. They knew they were the chosen, they knew they were the elect and chosen of the Lord. The oath that he never would abandon his people had been fulfilled for 3,500 years, and therefore with the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, they abandoned the heathens in the Persian territory, passed the confines of Tartary and China, and no doubt through great sufferings reached the northeastern coast of Asia and came in sight of the continent, wherein, as they had reason to believe, mankind never before had dwelt. On the discovery of America by Columbus and the discoveries subsequent to his time, various tribes of Indians or savages, I am not going to refer to our people that way, were found to inhabit this our continent whose origin was unknown. So it talks about what America was like before or during the discovery. And about the American Indians. Let me see if I folded some other pages to see if it talks about the Jews and their traditions. So it kind of asks a rhetorical question. If tradition had not handed down to them the ineffable name as also preserved by the Jews, how did they acquire it in a wilderness where the word of the Lord was never known? So pretty much, how did the tribes of the Native Americans, how is it that they knew the name of God in like such a foreign territory far away from the Holy Land if they weren't descendants of the actual Jews and they hadn't passed down that tradition? How then did they know? And it talks about sacred dances and the Feast of First Fruits. They sing Alleluia and Mesheha from the Hebrew of Mashiach, Messiah, the Anointed One. Yom Mesheha, He Mesheha, Wa Mesheha, thus making the Alleluia the Messiah. It says the Jehovah, or, referring to God. Really, it's I am that I am, Ahaya, but that's what it says here. And it just gets into like a lot of other information too. I know on some other pages I put information here. So this one is talking about the history of Brazil. It says, Emmanuel de Moraes in his History of Brazil declares that America has been peopled by the Carthaginians and Israelites. And as to the Israelites, he says, nothing is wanting but circumcision. The only thing they lack is circumcision to constitute a perfect resemblance between them and the Brazilians. So that's something you need to know about too. They're just coincidences everywhere. They're really not coincidences. It's the truth. The 10 tribes did come to the Americas. But what they did in the Americas is a separate story. And why colonization happened is also a separate story. It's too long for today's video. Yeah, but it's showing that, you know, they're considering them Hebrews too. Like, there's evidence of that. And, you know, sources of the Mississippi, and there's so much in this book that, you know, it would take too long to go over. That I recommend you all take a good look. Once again, I will go ahead and link the book here. So it's talking about Asiatic and Phoenician origins and Hebrew origins of some of the temples and palaces that the Mexicans and Central American natives established. Let's see if there's more to this. And it kind of intertwines the two. Biblical information and comparisons between the Bible, the 12 tribes, and the indigenous. So I recommend just getting this book. Once again, this was a brief overview, everyone. So thank you all for coming to watch. If you have any questions, please let me know and reach out. I'm going to try to edit this video and get the clearer pictures of the indigenous, because this particular book didn't have any, but this one is chock full of them, especially the online version on, I think it's archive.org, where they have like PDFs of the original. So thank you once again for watching, and y'all have a great day. Reach out. I encourage discussion. Thank you all for interacting and engaging with my videos, and God bless.